Welcome back, everyone. Today I have for you the cards that are the most improved cards as we go into Legends of the Force. Remember, these are cards that I think get the most benefit going into the next set, not just the top 10 cards in the game. Number 10. First up is Execute Order 66, which is a 4-cost villainy event that deals 6 damage to each Jedi unit. And then for each unit defeated this way, its controller creates a clone token. Why I think this is going to be good is that villain decks have a direct counter if decks like Obi-Wan Kenobi are top tier relevant next set. The way I play Obi-Wan, you go kind of wide and even bumping up a lot of the cheaper units Obi-Wan wants to run with experience tokens, it doesn't surpass the 6 health breakpoint that you need to survive and execute Order 66. And Obi-Wan Kenobi himself can easily be wiped out on his flip turn, and completely wiping out Obi-Wan's board as well as the leader himself after he flips makes Execute Order 66 just a pretty good potential sideboard card if decks similar to Obi-Wan Kenobi or Obi-Wan Kenobi himself become very popular at some events. You play this, completely derail their strategy, and that's why it just makes the list at number 10. Number 9. Mace Windu Party Crasher, who's a 7-cost 5/7 Force Jedi unit with Ambush and the ability, when this unit attacks and defeats a unit, ready him. So this was actually a recommendation from my friend Morbius1. If you agree with him, let him know in the comments below and go check out his channel. I will put a link in the description. I like Mace Windu because he comes in and can generate the Force token and possibly defeat something. And then if he does defeat something, he gets to swing again, generating another Force token if you already spent it. And one of the ways to stop you from getting the Force token is to clear the opponent's board of Force users. Well, Mace gives you the ability to generate you that Force token from your hand with his ambush, and that's pretty powerful. He's already seen very fringe play here and there, but now that he generates the Force, he's a very good card to look at in Force token hungry decks, especially in Obi-Wan if you want to run red over blue, which is a debate I'm considering. Mace Windu sets up a first action Yoda unit play on 8 resources in Green Red Hero. Since you can play Mace Windu, he ambushes, generating you that Force token you need, even if you didn't have a Force unit in play. Now, the reason he's so low on the list is I'm not sure if Obi-Wan wants to run red over blue just yet, and I haven't really found a spot for him in my Avar Kriss list just yet, but don't worry, we're going to be talking about her later on. Maybe he can find a place in Han 2 lists if they want to lean into the Force. But again, I'm not so sure they want to run him in that like 6+ power spot. He has an awesome effect, but his 5 attack is a hair too low for me and takes a little bit of setup to get him to be really powerful where he can defeat multiple things the turn you play him. So that gives Mace Windu a spot at number 9 on the list. Number 8. Fallen Lightsaber, which is a 3-cost upgrade that attaches to a non-vehicle unit and gives +3/+3 with the text, if attached to a Force unit, give it the on-attack ability, deal 1 damage to each ground unit the defending player controls. There are 2 leaders I really like with Red Villain that are new and have the Force trait, Third Sister and Mama T. Third Sister is in red, and Mother Talzin wants to run red. Equipping your leader for cheap with a +3/+3 lightsaber makes them a nightmare to deal with. I really think Fallen Lightsaber is good. Not great, but good. And I really like upgrading my leaders, especially if they're 5 flip leaders, since typically they're going to be slightly weaker on the stat side, but buffing them with a 3-cost upgrade and leaving enough resources left over to play a 2-drop is a really strong leader flip turn. I don't really want to run Fallen Lightsaber as a turn 2 play, but sometimes you're just going to have to. But against a lot of decks, they're going to have a plan to either remove the unit it attached to, or use upgrade removal to remove the lightsaber altogether. But putting this on both Third Sister and Mother Talzin makes them a powerhouse, and I easily see 1 or 2 of these going into those decks just as a leader boost to take over the game, and for super late game grindy matchups, this is a pump that can either give you an advantageous trade or lethal damage. The reason that Fallen Lightsaber is so low on the list is that are the other lightsabers released this set going to be better than this and cut into its usability? And I'm not exactly sure. We're going to talk about this in another video, so subscribe if you're interested. But that's why Fallen Lightsaber is number 8 on the list. Number 7. Legal Authority. And you might be saying, bruh, what? Okay, hear me out. For those of you who have me on their second monitor, Legal Authority is a 2-cost upgrade that grants +2 health to a unit, and then It has the when played ability, attached unit captures an enemy non-leader unit with less power than it. So why do I like this card? Well, I like it in 3 different decks that I've played, which all have to do with experience tokens. Obi-Wan Kenobi, since you get free experience tokens with the Force, you can easily use this as a form of very cheap removal. Since we play a lot of low-cost units, we get to capture a unit, possibly even in the space arena, which is big, then maybe even flip our leader and play a 3-cost unit. Same thing for Revan, and especially with Revan. Since you're running him in ECL most likely from what I've seen, I know people are dabbling in other colors, but most successfully I've seen ECL. Legal Authority is one of the best forms of removal you have access to since you're stuck in just green. You're pretty limited on removal options. And the experience token buffs can be used to steal a lot of units with higher power. I've even been hit by a Revan with Revan's lightsabers and like 3 grit damage and an experience token. That right there can steal like a 9 or 8 attack unit, which is wild. Also, this is kind of good in Snoke since you're stacking power onto the same unit, but you are putting all your eggs into a single basket in that deck possibly if you attach it to your highest power unit. So this being a decent capture tech card that can take care of things like a Chewied Falcon in space, if you're running a Force deck, which in my experience runs a limited amount of space units since you're trying to get the Force with Force units, which can only be ground units, this gives it a spot at number 7 on the list. Number 6. Aayla Secura, Master of the Blade. She's a 5-cost, 6/5 Force Jedi Republic unit with Coordinate, on attack, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to her for this attack. And if you're a newer player, Coordinate only activates if you control 3 or more units at the same time. So Aayla Secura was a card I was really excited about pre-Twilight of the Republic's release, because Boba Fett collecting the bounty was still around, and you could ECL her in Quinlan to defeat a Boba Fett on his leader flip, which would have been pretty powerful. However, Boba Fett was banned, and Coordinate was kind of hard to pull off. And let's talk a little bit about Coordinate. Coordinate really tried to thrive on the fact that you were going to generate 2/2 clone tokens, and that turns on your Coordinate cards. However, that really never played out as expected, but in Legends of the Force, we have so many go wide strategies where we can play 2 cards a turn. But those 2 cards we play are better than 2/2 clone tokens. And that is what's going to make Coordinate kind of stronger now, especially if peppered in with efficient card draw cards like the new Ki-Adi-Mundi and Do or Do Not. And in Legends of the Force, in Green Hero specifically, it's getting very swarmy. And you're going to see a theme throughout the video. Green Hero can go wide and tall. So you can reliably get 2 to 3 units out by turn 4 now. And with the new Obi-Wan Kenobi leader, which I think is going to be pretty good this set, Aayla Secura gets an experience token for free and is a 7/6 with the possibility of not taking damage back when she attacks. She can be a nightmare and almost require that your opponent defeat her, giving her a fake version of Sentinel in a way, because if they don't, she almost always can defeat a leader the turn after they flip for free. I think she's good in Green Hero and specifically great in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that makes her number 6 on the list of most improved cards going into Legends of the Force, because I think she is almost an auto-include into any Obi-Wan deck. Number 5. Alright, we've made it to the top 5, and let's start off with another Coordinate card. Ki-Adi-Mundi, Composed and Confident, who's a 5 resource, 5/7 Force Jedi with Coordinate. When an opponent plays their second card each phase, you may draw 2 cards. Ki-Adi actually has started to see a little bit of play recently as a Force unit in Han-2 Blue, and can be cheated out on 4 resources in that deck. I also play him a little bit in Yoda Green, since often we resupply turn 2, Ki-Adi-Mundi turn 3. And I think Han-2 Blue may be leaning into the Force package a little more in Legends of the Force, and that will be a very potent deck, at least early on in set 5. I like Ki-Adi-Mundi in Obi-Wan Blue as well, seeing a theme here, since he can be cheated out on turn 2 with Jedi Consular if you're running the rare blue base, Virgin's Temple, or on turn 3 if you resupply or General's Blade it on turn 2. In Obi-Wan, he can also be a 6/8, which is kind of crazy and extremely hard to remove. I think the real reason he's going to see play like Ayla Sakura is that 5 cost, really scary unit slot is going to be a very important spot next set. And with Green Hero going wide, we really need to reevaluate some of these coordinate cards because we might be able to reliably actually get coordinate off in Legends of the Force. Kiadi also has the advantage in yellow-blue hero, which I've been kind of banging the drum on. I really think we're going to get a really good blue-yellow hero deck. You turn one Force Jedi or Republic unit into a now there are 2 of them Ki-Adi-Mundi on turn 2. And you haven't felt fear until you've seen a 5/7 Ki-Adi-Mundi on turn 2. When you compare him to the other Force 5 drops at his position, I think I like him as the second best 5-drop Force unit in the game right now, just behind Plo Koon. And especially if you can get him out early, you might be able to get his draw 2 coordinate off a couple of times, which is kind of just a bonus on his crazy good stat line that we try to cheat out early. It's just really powerful. So why he's above Ayla Sakura is I think he's better in a few more leaders and a few more decks than Ayla Sakura will be. We will see him in Hantu Blue and Obi-Wan Blue and maybe other blue leaders? I'm not sure. He's also only Vigilance, and that maybe means, just maybe, some of these villain leaders will want to run him as well. And all that combined gives him a spot at number 5 on the list. Number 4. Force Lightning, a 1-cost event that lets you choose a unit. It loses all abilities for this phase. Then, if you control a Force unit, you may pay any number of resources and deal 2 damage to the chosen unit for each resource paid this way. I think this card was always powerful, but the control villainy decks never actually ran a Force leader and hardly ran Force units. There are a few flavors of villain control that have been popular: blue-green villain and blue-red villain. Blue-green villain ran a bunch of non-Force units, and blue-red villain almost didn't run any units until very late in the game, which made Force Lightning never really popular, especially since the leaders that were used in the past were leaders like Iden Verso and Bossk. So this card was more of a combo piece that also didn't have many other complementary cards naturally ran in the decks that wanted to run this. But I think this is a core card in Mama T. It can defeat a Krayt Dragon for 6 resources and only take 1 damage back. That's kind of massive. Another slight problem that Force Lightning has was that odd health units made you play the card slightly inefficiently, making you round up 1 resource just to defeat them. But in Talzin, sometimes you're going to be able to use her leader ability to give that unit -1 health, and then defeat them with Force Lightning for 1 resource cheaper than other leaders. On her flip turn, she can reliably defeat up to 8 health units without any trouble, but she can even defeat 9 or even 10 health units with her -1 HP ability, proccing once or twice if you get both the leader and unit side to go off. Force Lightning is flexible removal, which is great. Another very strong aspect of Force Lightning is that it gives these hard control decks another answer to their 2 biggest thorns, Lurking TIE Phantom and Chewbacca. Since Force Lightning silences the unit, it can defeat a Lurking TIE Phantom for only 2 resources. And since it does damage, it defeats a Chewbacca for 4 resources if played as a unit, and even a piloted Falcon for 5 resources, 4 if you hit it with Talzin's ability. Lastly, and I'm not sure how relevant this will be next set since Darth Vader is getting little to no support, a Darth Vader flipped onto a clone combat squadron, once silenced, only has 8 health, no matter what, since you erase the ability that grants it health. Which means that for only 5 resources, you can defeat a Darth Vader leader on its best unit, and they can't even hide it on a Lurking TIE Phantom if they wanted to, because again, you just silence that. Just listing off these potential powerful counters makes me really love this card, and I think this helps propel Mother Talzin into a prominent spot in the meta this coming set, along with another card that we're going to talk about coming up. If you want to know my leader rankings, that video should be coming out very shortly after this one. Consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when it drops. I'm not sure how many other leaders run Force Lightning, but I know Talzin will, and I think she'll be good with it, and it catapults her, a Force hard control deck, into prominence, making Force Lightning number 4 on the list. Number 3. For the top 3, and I may get some pushback here, but I think the third most improved card is Force Throw, which for 1 resource, choose a player, they discard a card from their hand. Then, if you control a Force unit, you may deal damage equal to the cost of the discarded card. This card is going to be excellent next set and quite possibly the best card on this list overall, but it's already great, and that's why I only have it at the number 3 spot. We see this card being played in Han 2 a lot with the Force package, and it's devastating. We see it in Quinlan Voss, where it can be gross and extremely consistent. And we are getting a Force themed set that makes this card so much more consistent in a variety of decks. However, this may be a hot take right now, but Force Throw is one of the most balanced cards in the game, and let me try to explain, and go ahead, put the pitchforks down. I think we should have excellent 5-star powerful cards in the game, and Force Throw is a card that can be played around in multiple ways. Either defeat the opponent's Force units, then it only discards a card, or make sure you have a card that is a Force Throw fodder card in your hand, something like a 1-cost Sheen Fury. You can even use card draw to mitigate Force Throw, and we actually got a lot of good card draw cards this set, like Do or Do Not and Ki-Adi-Mundi. With a little forethought, you can make sure to mitigate Force Throw's effect. And I know your argument here. Well, they'll just Force Throw themselves, and that completely is inefficient for them. It's balanced because now they're using 2 cards and a resource to defeat something, and a lot of times that card they use has to be like a big closer unit. So losing card advantage to defeat something, and the card that was used is big and important, isn't always good to do, and in fact, I have seen it multiple times lose people games because they Force Throw themselves and ran out of gas. And you can only Force Throw yourself so many times before it makes you susceptible to discard like an opponent's Force Throw or a pillage. Yes, it is going to be excellent next set, and I think that's a good thing, because it will push set 5 Legends of the Force to be a great set, which is great for the game. We need an influx of new, fresh cards, or else the game's going to get stale. Since this card is already great, but will be a lot more consistent next set, I give Force Throw a top 3 spot on the list, and I think it's well deserved. We're going to see a rise in red Force decks because of Force Throw, and I know I didn't talk about the card itself much here. There's not much insight I can give you on this card. It's gonna be great. Also, this wasn't planned, but Force Throw is the only non-rare or legendary card on the list, so that's kind of cool. Number 2. So the next 2 cards are more improved than Force Throw, but may not be as overall powerful as Force Throw is. These are cards currently seeing no play right now at all, but I think are actually going to be meta defining in Legends of the Force. The first card, and number 2 on the list, is General's Blade. You're going to see a lot of turn 1 Jedi into turn 2 General's Blade because it's just nasty. With cards like Gungi or Yaddle, you're going to have a 5-8 or a 5-7 unit on turn 2 that also lets you resource cheat if you get a swing with it. You can even go turn 1 Gungi into turn 2 General's Blade, attack, and then play another 2-drop like Yaddle. And that is what I mean by Green Hero has the capability to go wide and tall. Buffing a unit early on turn 2 is typically easily punished by removal, but if you can still play out units and buff others early on, you can really get out of hand fast. General's Blade does run the same risk as Fallen Lightsaber that we talked about previously, getting defeated by removal or upgrade hate, so it's not going to be uncounterable, which is good. But if your deck doesn't have an answer to that opening, you're going to have a bad time. And the effect of General's Blade is so much better than any other lightsaber in the game. Cheating out cards 2 turns earlier is wild to me. And if you don't have anything to deal with it the turn after you play it, so let's say turn 3, with the 4 resource turn, you can swing again and then drop a 6-drop like the new Mace Windu unit. Now that we have so many good Jedis, General's Blade is going to be so consistent. I have personally really liked General's Blade on my leader, which shouldn't be a surprise to you. I love upgrading my leaders. But having an Avar Kriss be an 11-13 or an Obi-Wan be a 6-9 and then swinging and playing another card is really, really strong. A lot of times you can also actually think of General's Blade as a +3/+3 for 1 resource, since you can line up your hand to still drop a powerful card after the resource reduction from the General's Blade. Also, just note that General's Blade is not unique, so you can even stack 2 of these on a unit or separate units and then swing to get a -4 discount. Also, if you have General's Blade on like Gungi and you have a Jedi Consular in play, That's also a -4 resource cheat, since you can attack with the General's Blade Gungi and stack that with Jedi Consular's reduction action. All of that is why General's Blade is number 2 on my list. Number 1. And number 1 most improved card is Clone. Yeah, Clone. And I want to make it clear, I am not the one who found this. My friend Durf and I were working on a deck together, and he put these in, and oh my god, Clone is crazy good this set. Side note here, I'm currently making one of my long ultimate guides on the Avar Chrysalis, which is what Durf and I were working on when we found this. So, subscribe if you want to watch it when it drops. That deck is going to be nuts in Legends of the Force. It feels good into everything. So, for anyone who doesn't know what Clone does, it's a 7-cost 0/0 clone, but the effect is really what we need to look at here. Clone has the ability, you may have this unit enter play as a copy of a non-leader, non-vehicle unit in play, except it gains the clone trait and is not unique. Only the printed attributes are copied. So if you have a General's Blade on a card, you don't get those stats or the effect, just what's printed physically on the card itself. But why Clone is going to be insanely good is we also copy the effects on the cards, like the when played abilities of the new Yoda unit or Mace Windu unit. So let me go off on a tangent real quick. And if you've been around a while, you'll know what I'm talking about, but for the newer players, this could be new information. In sets 1 and 2, the late game more control style decks that were in green had big closers. But those closers were either big ships like Avengers and Devastators, or Snoke, and pretty much just Snoke as the only non-vehicle haymaker that they ran. Now, we did have Mauls and Vaders, but those aren't really that crazy of cards to clone, and the ambush made them hard to survive a turn to clone them. Then, we got to set 3, which was the set Clone was actually released in. And for the longest time, none of the cards we got in set 3 were really that impactful, and the ones that were really didn't benefit from Clone at all. The big green late game decks continued to run the same top end of vehicles and the very few decent non-vehicle units like Luke Skywalker, which needs setup to be impactful, or Snoke, which is a good target, but just having one target in the deck doesn't make you want to learn Clone. You want it to be way more consistent. So Clone was all but forgotten. And then set 4 happened, which was pretty much an all vehicle set. So none of the great cards we got helped Clone at all. And in fact, it kind of hurt the card because now we have more good late game ships that we may want to run over non-vehicle units. But now in set 5, we got a Force set, which means we can clone a lot of the good Force units. And specifically, again, I'm looking at cloning good Force token units like Mace Windu, or the new best target to clone in the game, Yoda. So we're going to make Moff Gideon proud. Since Clone makes these not unique, you can now have 2 Mace Windus, or 2 Yodas, up at the same time. Curving Mace Windu, using the Force token, dealing 4 damage, dropping a 6/6, followed up by a cloned Mace Windu, deal another 4 damage, drop another 6/6, is really powerful. But cloning Yoda is unbelievably powerful because you play Yoda on 8 resources. Then on 9 resources, you play Clone for 7 resources, cloning the Yoda, and you get to use the Force again to heal another 5 health. And then both of the Yodas trigger. And having just 2 Yodas on the board, nothing else, deal 8 damage. Since one Yoda deals 4, and then the other one deals 4. And this is a big way to stabilize a game. And another thing I want to highlight about this specific playline is since you cloned Yoda and you're on 9 resources, you have 2 resources left over, meaning you can play a card like Infused Brawler, use the Force again, and now you could have 3 units in play. So now the Yodas deal 12 damage after your opponent may have played a big follow-up to your turn. So that is why this is so unbelievably powerful. It's crazy. Anytime you use the Force from here on out, these Yodas trigger. This exact playline has won me multiple games now. Defeating a big unit, healing, and playing a 5/9 unit to boot is hard to come back from. I actually think 2 Yodas is better than what a really good playline was from the past, which is 2 reinforcement walkers at the same time. Now it's kind of just 2 Yodas at the same time, which is just better than the 2 reinforcement walkers. Plus, you can clone things like crate dragons, new Vader units, and so on. Pretty much any of the new Force units, we can clone. And remember, you can clone your opponent's Force units as well. Also remember that you can timely intervention a clone. Clone hits the board, copies the unit you want, then when plays and ambushes trigger. But I can't stress enough how impactful cloning a big Force unit can be this set. Seriously, try it out and you'll be surprised. I'm currently running it in my Avar Kriss Red list, and sometimes you do get beat up early, and then you win by healing 5 with Yoda, then cloning Yoda, healing another 5, and board wiping. Clone is the most improved card this set, going from just a $1 forgotten legendary card from Twilight of the Republic, and now becoming an absolute powerhouse. And get your clones before it's too late, or I'm gonna corner the clone market. And that's the list. I'm really excited about Legends of the Force because one of the most forgotten sets in the game thus far, Twilight of the Republic, I think is actually going to get a little bit better this set. Especially the 3 legendaries that I talked about, Aayla Secura, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Clone. And you can currently get a box of Twilight of the Republic for just $45 on TCG Player. And if these legendaries and rares from the set actually become good, then maybe you can get them now for cheap and not when the price spikes coming up. And that's all I have for you today. I'm currently working on 3 long deck tech videos, an update to the base math video, a whole other separate series that will be coming soon, a draft guide, and a deck construction and sideboarding playlist. And more top 10 lists as we're about to jump into Legends of the Force. If you're interested in any of these, let me know in the comments below and subscribe so you don't miss out when they drop. If you want to help give me ideas and thoughts on video topics or play games with me or chat with me, consider joining my Discord. The link will be in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and see ya.